Are Kirill Kaprizov's numbers in October an anomaly, or is there actually something going on? Let's dive in and find out on today's episode of Locked On Wild.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we are your team each and every day. We thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we're going to look at Kirill Kaprizov's numbers in the month of October, and if there is something there, or if it's just purely a coincidence. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, and have hosted the show since 2021. Also, credentialed Wild Media member, and we talked about this the other night on, I believe it was the postcast after the game against Winnipeg, and I still don't really know even how I feel about this, but if you look at all the numbers, all the goals, all the points that Kirill Kaprizov has put up since joining the Minnesota Wild, first month of the season, there is a little bit of a difference between what he puts out there compared to what he does for the rest of the season. And I have spent extensive time breaking this all down, charting it. In his career, in 30 October games, Kirill Kaprizov has 9 goals, 23 assists, 32 total points. It's the only month of his career in which he has a negative plus-minus at negative 12. And you look at the other months, fewer shots on goal, shooting just 8.3%, despite playing the most minutes of any month on average throughout the course of the rest of the year. November, Kaprizov in 38 November games has 46 points. December, 43 points in 36 games. January, 49 points in 39 games. February, he's got 50 points in 42 games. 53 points in 49 career March games. 54 career points in 42 April games. And so you look at every other month in which Kirill Kaprizov has played, there has got to be something to this. I don't know how else to I don't know how else to really break it down. Like, he's averaging better than a goal every 2 games every single other month of his career, other than the month of October. You can take that even a step further and look at how things have played out over the course of his career. Now, obviously, the first year that he played, they didn't play in October, but in the month of January, in 10 January games, he had 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 total points, had a 13.3 shooting percentage, but the fewest shots he recorded in any month, 15 in 10 total games. You look at 2021-2022, in the month of October, 6 assists and a -3 for the month in 8 games. He had 26 shots on net. That's the fewest he had in any month. And you look at what he did in November that year, and he had 7 goals in 14 games. In 2022-2023, this was really the only year in which really got things going. Now, obviously, we know what happened at the end of the season that year. That was the year that he got injured against the Winnipeg Jets and missed about 20 games of the season. But in that month of October, that first month, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 total points was a -6. And again, high 21.38 on average per game that month of October. You look at the 2021-2022 season, 19 minutes, 22 seconds on the ice. That was one of the highest numbers that he had on the season. And his first year, 18:31. That was the second highest of any month other than the month of May, in which the Wild were pushing for a playoff spot. How about 2023-2024? 9 October games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 total points, a -6, 37 shots on net, which, there were more shots coming, but 22-10, which was the third highest mark that he had in any month for that entire season, -6 as well. And so far this season, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 total points in 4 games, just shooting 9.1%, 11 shots in 4 games. And, this is something interesting because it's something that John Hines has talked about. And it may truly be that it just takes him about a month to kind of really fully rev up. And you look at, every one of those seasons, you go from January to February, had 4 goals, had 9 points in 8 games in the month of February his rookie season. Continued that into March. He had 6 goals in 16 games, then 11 goals in 15 April games. In 2021-2022, he went from 0 goals and just 6 points. I say just 0 goals, 6 points in 8 games to 19 points in 14 games in November. 2022-2023 kept a strong start going. He had 7 goals and 9 assists, 16 points in 12 November games. Month of November in 2023-2024, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 total points in 12 games after a little bit of a slow start in the month of November. And so it's something that I think I would tend to put into the anomaly stage, because really the only season in which there was a definite, there's something clearly physically wrong with him was 2023-2024. And we know the reason behind that, because Kirill in the offseason was working his way back from that injury against Winnipeg and just was not himself to start the season. He started off really slow. He was just trying to really find it and get back to playing a style of his game that he was able to do while not aggravating the injury. Other than that, he's come in fully healthy. I think it just takes him a while to kind of get himself in Kirill Kaprizov mode. And look, if Kirill Kaprizov's going to be a much better finisher 2 seasons than he is a starter, you're not going to get any complaint from me, because at the end of the day, what really matters is the games in, I would say, December, January, February, and March are the real key games for the course of your season that can really make or break you. If you start off and are kind of treading water in November, play better in December, and then really hit your stride January, February, March, those are the teams that end up being able to really make some noise in the postseason. And look at the breakdown of Kirill Kaprizov's career stats. In his career in the month of January, 21 goals in 39 games, 49 points in 39 games. In February, 27 goals in 42 games, 50 total points in his career in February. March, he's got 33 goals and 53 points in 49 total games. And even in April, 30 goals, 54 points in 42 games. And he's shooting at worst 17.3% in those 4 months combined. But it ups in March to 18.5%, and it ups in April to 19.6%. So you've got a situation here in which Kirill Kaprizov is able to, as the season gets going, he gets his legs under him, so to speak, But it's not like he's playing terribly, especially if we look at what he's done so far through the first 4 games of the season this year. Like, he's really helping drive play. And so I think some of this too just stems from having options that are getting much quicker starts that he is able to go to buy time until he just hits that mode and flips that switch to kind of get himself started. The other numbers, look at these splits in his career. Pre-All-Star game, Kaprizov in 99 games, 47 goals, 63 assists, 110 total points in 99 pre-All-Star games. Post-All-Star game, 183 games, 114 goals, 112 assists, 226 total points in 183 post-All-Star games. So it is a matter of just taking a little while to kind of get going. And then once he does, look out, hide the women and children in the first 3 rows of every arena he goes to, because the shots are just going to be firing left and right, and the goals are just going to be raining down from whatever arena he's at. So maybe there is just a little frost to Kirill Kaprizov's game, especially going on. But as we'll look at in how these first few seasons of his career have gone, a lot of times it's because there are other players that are ready to rock right from the drop. And so we'll look at some of those instances that other players have been ready to go and to carry the heavy lifting while Kirill gets himself into full season mode. We'll talk about that more as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And get this, Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. How many times have you had that happen where you pick somebody from one of those other sites and put them into your lineup, and you're sitting down to watch the game and you look at your lineup and they got injured and they haven't accumulated anything? Well, even if one of your players gets injured, if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. And Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value to your lineups. So head to download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. For your second listen today, make sure to check out the Locked On NHL podcast. Big news, Jake Ottinger, I should say, signing a mega extension with the Dallas Stars. We'll talk a little bit about that with Alex for Monday's episode. But if you want some intel on that right now, Locked On NHL has you covered. Also, programming note for this weekend, there will be no postcast on Saturday. I have some things that have been going on in the background for a while, and going to be taking a needed siesta this weekend. Wild take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. We'll recap the game for you for Monday's episode, and that also means that the live show, the next live show, will be Monday night at 8. But, I just want to kind of be where I need to be, and we'll be back and ready to rock for you on Monday. So, look, it's early in the season too. As much as I'd like to go 100% on the postcasts, when stuff happens, you just if I would be doing one, it wouldn't be my my best work. So sometimes there's something to be said about just getting some rest in, getting some maintenance in, and getting ready for the big ones coming up this next week. So Saturday we'll recap the game for you with Alex on Monday, but there will not be a postcast for that game. So let's continue this conversation because Kirill Kaprizov seems like a little bit of a slow start. And I'm going to take a phrase that was used in the Locked On Senators postcast after their most recent game that I think is just a fantastic phrase. It's not as though you want to hit the ground running when you start your season, get out of the gates in a full sprint. Kirill Kaprizov is starting off his seasons in October at a pretty brisk walk. So it's not like he's struggling out of the gate for the most case. I think last year we can all agree that there definitely looked like there were a few things that were just not quite the same in his game. But this season, I think he has all of his speed. He looks the part. The offense just isn't quite there yet. And some of that has to do with just gelling with his line mates. But if you look at it too, in a lot of these instances in which Kaprizov has taken a little bit to get up to the Kaprizov that we know, some of his teammates have just absolutely gotten off to insane starts that have been able to more than make up for the lack of elite level production that he normally brings. For instance, if we go back to 2021, Joel Eriksson Ek that season through the first 10 games had 5 goals. He had 9 points. But then you had players like Kevin Fiala, Victor Rask, Matt Dumba, who had 3 goals each to start that season, and Jordan Greenway, a point per game player through the first 10 games of the season. Figure that one out. And so you get your teammates stepping up to help keep the production going. It puts less pressure on Kirill Kaprizov to have to do everything himself. In the actual 2021-2022 season, through the first 6 games of the year, Matt Zuccarello had 7 points and 3 goals. Marcus Foligno through the first 8 games of the year had 6 points and 2 goals. Ryan Hartman had 4 goals. Joel Eriksson Ek had 3 goals. And so those were the guys that really stepped up and kind of helped get the season going, especially early on. 2022-2023, Matt Zuccarello and Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy and Joel Eriksson Ek got off to a really good start to the season. Beyond that, the production was sparse. But in that instance, Kirill with 6 goals and 11 points in the first 9 games. Zuccarello had 12 points. Matt Boldy had 8 points. But then you look at these plus-minus numbers, and Zuccarello and Kaprizov were -7 and -6 to start the season. 2023-2024, Ryan Hartman started the season with 6 goals in the first 9 games. Joel Eriksson Ek had 5 goals and 10 points in the first 9 games. And so, again, you've got teammates, you got that secondary scoring that is stepping up and being able to help cushion things until Kirill really hits his stride. And this year, look, Kirill's got 6 points. His +3 is one of the high marks on the team. And so again, it's not as though he's playing badly. And 6 points in 4 games with 5 assists. You've got Matt Boldy and Matt Zuccarello and Ryan Hartman all with multiple goals. Marco Rossi, Matt Zuccarello, Matt Boldy, and Kirill Kaprizov at or above a point per game. And so, again, you're getting some of those secondary scorers to step up and be able to assist, so that then once their production kind of tails off, Kirill just steps to the front of the line and his production just goes absolutely through the roof. So I think having dove into it, I think in a couple of instances, in particular last year, injury led to him starting out of the gate slower than what we've come to expect. But beyond that, I think it just takes him a few games to get a lather going. And if he is playing like he has so far in these first 4 games, where he's impacting the play, even if he's not like lighting the score sheet on fire, then you take that. You take him impacting the game, because even though he didn't score in the Winnipeg game or in the St. Louis game, one of the the line that he was on with Kirill and with Matt Zuccarello and Marco Rossi, those lines were carrying play and pushing the pace. And so again, just because the production doesn't necessarily like match what he does later in the season, like he can save all those goals, all those points for January, February, March. Like, do all of your production in those months, because those are probably the most critical. Other than, I would say, the month of April is pretty important too, but I think January, February, March are the most key of the season. And so if a bunch of his production happens in those 3 months, like I said, you're not going to get any objection from me, but I find it interesting that there is just a tangible difference early on in the season. You see so many guys at the NHL level who just get off to these torrid starts to the season. And, Artemi Panarin is off to a great one so far this year with 11 points already. Nikita Kucherov's got 6 goals so far this season. And sometimes you see the guys that just come out of nowhere, like Dylan Guenther. But at the end of the year, Kirill is always there amongst the leaders in terms of points and goals, as long as he gets close to a full season in. So I don't know. It's just there are few things to even point out about Kirill Kaprizov's game in like a questioning why these particular things happen. And so I'm just going to chalk this up as kind of an anomaly, because he more than makes up for it at the end of the season. The Minnesota Wild take on the Columbus Blue Jackets tomorrow. And for the Blue Jackets, some injury concerns. We'll talk about a player who had a big impact in the opening night win for the Minnesota Wild. We'll talk about his status, as well as a look at the goalie situation, and as we gear up for the rematch. That's all coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You were probably more tuned in last night to playoff baseball, the ALCS and the NLCS. What a classic between the Guardians and the Yankees, with Cleveland coming away with a big win after a game-tying home run and then a walk-off and some epic bat flips as well. But that Thursday night football game was an absolute clunker between the Broncos and the Saints, probably looking purely for fantasy tidbits. But if you were keeping an eye out, FanDuel had you covered every step of the way. And if you took the Broncos, well, even if you took the Saints, if you put $5 on either team, you could get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Doesn't even have to be a winner. $5 bet's all you need. You'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So head to FanDuel.com right now to take advantage of this great offer. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time can help you create the ultimate game viewing experience. College football is in full swing. The NFL is ramping things up. The NBA will be here before we know it, but the NHL season also underway as well. And so there's no shortage of opportunities for you to see your favorite team play in person. And Game Time is going to make it nice and easy for you so you can spend all your time worrying about where you're going to tailgate, where you're going to eat before the game, and more importantly, where you're going to go after your team wins. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. And once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Reminder for you, no postcast after Saturday's game, but we'll be right back to it on Tuesday night as the Wild take on the Florida Panthers. We'll have you covered for that game. We'll have you covered for the Lightning game. We'll have you covered for Philly and Pittsburgh as well. Just wanting to get an opportunity to be where I need to be over the weekend. So we'll be here for you when everything rolls back around on Monday with Alex, and we'll recap the Saturday game for you as well. So appreciate everybody's understanding on that, and we'll touch base with you again after the weekend. Minnesota Wild take on the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday, and the Wild picked up their opening night win against Columbus. Columbus played last night. They beat the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 6-2. And for the Blue Jackets, got off to an early 2-0 lead. Igor Shinnikov scoring on the power play and Kirill Marchenko scoring his second goal of the season before the Sabres mounted their comeback. Adam Fantilli scored his second goal of the season. Matthew Olivier also scoring. And then with the Blue Jackets nursing a 4-3 lead heading into the third, Zachary Aston Reese and Damon Severson adding their first goals of the season to push it out of reach. Sabres did get one back to make it 6-4 for the final. But something to keep an eye on for the Minnesota Wild heading into Saturday's game is the fact that Kent Johnson, who scored against the Wild in that opening night win against the Blue Jackets, he left the game after playing just 6 minutes. And according to his status after the game, ESPN with this nugget, Johnson's upper body injury looks like it will cost him time, but the Blue Jackets will know more on the 21-year-old status later today. That's according to Aaron Portzline of The Athletic. But Dean Evison was, I saw this on X as well. Dean Evison was quoted as saying that it's looking like this is going to be one that will keep him out of the lineup, which is a big blow for the Blue Jackets because he had recorded a point in every game so far this season, with the Blue Jackets alternating wins and losses, losing to the Wild, beating the Colorado Avalanche 6-4, a Colorado Avalanche team that is a mess right now, 0-4 to start the season. Who would have thought that? But then again, the Avs do have some concerns. They then lost to the Florida Panthers 4-3 and beat the Buffalo Sabres 6-4. And a young, up-and-coming forward with great speed and just electric ability to handle the puck. That could be a big blow for the Blue Jackets. And more reporting, head coach Dean Evison had a similar reaction to Johnson's injury as the one Eric Goodbranson suffered earlier in the week, which landed the defenseman on injured reserve. Johnson was off to a great start with 5 points in 4 appearances this season, but it looks like his potential breakout campaign will be paused. Kevin LeBanc would likely draw back into the lineup if Johnson is officially ruled out for Saturday's game against the Minnesota Wild. And it's not only the forwards in which there have been injuries for this Blue Jackets team. Elvis Merzlikins was dealing with injuries earlier in the week. Merzlikins is now being considered out short-term with an upper body injury. Brian Hedger of the Columbus Dispatch reports. This was before the Sabres game. Merzlikins doesn't sound like he'll be available Thursday to face the Sabres, but it's unclear how long he'll be out beyond that. The 30-year-old goalie has gone 0-2-0 with 7 goals allowed on 48 shots over the first 2 games of the season. Danil Tarasov figures to see an uptick in playing time since the Blue Jackets don't have a back-to-back over the next week. So I would guess it'll be Tarasov in net, and he gave up 4 goals on 24 shots to the Buffalo Sabres. And you look at a few of those other numbers from that game. The Blue Jackets were 1 for 3 on the power play and 2 for 2 on the penalty kill in that game, in picking up their second win of the season. And just looking at some of the numbers for the Blue Jackets, again, it's so hard to do these types of things because you are so early in the season that the numbers can look the numbers can just be all over the place. But as of right now, the Columbus Blue Jackets averaging 3.67 goals per game. That is not factoring in the game against the Sabres as of yet. So I'd imagine that number will be boosted as well. That puts them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth in the NHL at 3.67 goals per game. On the power play, the Columbus Blue Jackets are currently 12th, tied with Vancouver at 25%. Minnesota Wild, by comparison, are tied for 6th with Vegas at 30.8%. On the penalty kill, well, cover your eyes because the Columbus Blue Jackets are at 70% so far this season. Minnesota Wild are at 66.7%. So similar numbers for both of these teams, but again, a thing that I like to really kind of key in on when comparing some of these teams below the Wild in the standings, do they have Kirill Kaprizov? No, they don't. And so this is one that, with the Wild having started off as with 6 points through the first 4 games of the season, possible 6 out of 8. So pretty good start. This is one, especially with games against Florida, Tampa Bay, Philly, and Pittsburgh coming up on the road. This is one that would be nice to have on this road trip. And then all of a sudden, first 3 games of the road trip, and you have recorded 5 out of 6 points. That's not bad. As far as starters go, hard to take Gus out of the net, but with 2 games coming up next week as well, you could likely see Marc-Andre Fleury in this one. But again, you ride the hot hand. Philip Gustafsson is the hottest hand. He is a molten lava level cast iron pan in terms of the hotness that he has been putting out on the ice so far this season. He's 6th in the entire NHL with a 1.66 goals against average. So I'd probably go that route, but I guess we'll wait and see. We do know Kirill will be in the lineup. Joel Eriksson Ek will be back in the lineup. Sounds like Marcus Johansson will be back as well. So top 6 should look back to normal. I would imagine that Hartman will center the third, Huznadinov will center the fourth. And if Jared Spurgeon is out, which it sounds like he's going to be, my preference would be to see Damon Hunt get an opportunity, but I think we know how that's going to play out. So we'll keep you up to date. We'll recap the game for you. We'll have our three things recap on Monday. When I get back, I'll put that together along with our standard Monday episode with Alex. So everybody have a great weekend. Again, appreciate everybody's understanding. We'll my goal for postcast this year is to bat somewhere above 90%, and so even taking one off early here, it's not going to get us below that number. So we'll keep you up to date as the season continues to unfold. But make sure you hit that like button so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week, and follow us on your favorite audio platforms as well. We have new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.